Let's do it, boys. First up, going to Breach's old neck of the woods, Santa Clara, California, where the Cowboys have yet to get off the bus. What's that, Breach?
Breach bot 3,000.
No, of course that was you. The 49ers and future Hall of Famer Brock Purdy look to be unbeatable, which is crazy to say because we're talking about Brock Purdy, no longer Mr. Irrelevant. So, Brinson, before we talk about the winners here, what are we to make of Dak Prescott, who has a history of not showing up in the big moments? Is that fair here, or does some of the blame, I should say, go to the defense and Dan Quinn?
Yeah, I mean, we're recording this with around 3 to 4 minutes left in the game because it's such a blowout. We started the show early, and Sunday Night Football is focusing on 3 minutes left in the game. Sunday Night Football is focusing on John Lynch high-fiving everyone on the bench because he already got down to the sideline as the 49ers GM, obviously. Kyle Shanahan's still grinding out there, but it's 42-10. This is, I mean, to me, what this game isn't about a failure of the Cowboys offense or the Cowboys defense. It's about the 49ers letting the Cowboys know that there's an upper echelon of NFC teams and that you're going to need to stand in the line and give the bouncer $20 if you want to come in, because the only people allowed in otherwise from the VIP line, where you bypass the bouncer, you bypass all the jabronis standing up front trying to get in the club. The only teams allowed in are the Niners, the Eagles, and the Detroit Lions.
So, Breach, let me put it to you this way. Dak threw 15 interceptions last year, only played 12 games. Didn't look great tonight. And you could say the defense has been, quote-unquote, dominant, but they were defensive men's against the Giants, the Jets, and the Patriots. So, and, of course, the Cardinals team they couldn't beat. Where are you on Dak and maybe the Cowboys overall?
Well, I'll say, first of all, if this was a measuring stick game, the 49ers took the measuring stick, broke over the Cowboys' head, and then beat them with it. I mean, that's what kind of game this was. And if you're a Cowboys fan, the last thing you want to see is Dak Prescott getting thoroughly outplayed by the last pick in the NFL draft. Brock Purdy was so much better. I'm sure if you ask a Cowboys fan, would they rather have Dak Prescott or Brock Purdy for the rest of the season? I have to think most of them probably pick Brock Purdy. And we're talking about a quarterback and Dak who's been there since 2016. But as someone who had to watch a quarterback get his team to the playoffs 5 straight seasons and not win a single playoff game, Dak is definitely kind of emitting some Andy Dalton qualities out here where he's more talented than Andy Dalton. But I'm talking about you see a ceiling. You see a ceiling where Dak can get this team to the playoffs. Can he get them to the next level? Can he get them to the Super Bowl? I'm not sure he can. I don't think he can beat a team like the 49ers. He struggles every time he plays. And whenever they're in these big situations, and look, the coaching was horrible. The plays, the receivers couldn't get open. That's on Mike McCarthy for not coming up with a better game plan. So this is not all on Dak Prescott. I think Mike McCarthy was equally bad here. But man, if I'm Jerry Jones and I want to win a Super Bowl in my lifetime, I'm not sure I can do it with Dak. That doesn't mean they should get rid of him because he can get them to the playoffs every year. But if I want that Super Bowl, I'm not sure I can do it with Dak.
So two real quick follow-ups here. One, I mentioned that this was, in my quarterback tiers, I did this all season. I got caught so much crap for putting Dak below Daniel Jones. And like the whole thing was you had to read the tiers. I didn't think Dak was worse than Daniel Jones. I just put Dak in the same ceiling as the other guys who had a ceiling. Like you were not going to get, like, you just know who Dak is and you know what Dak's going to be and you know what Dak is going to do for the entire season. Like, but you don't feel like there's some untapped upside. Like for instance, like with Daniel Jones before the season, we didn't know what Daniel Jones would be. He might stink. He might take a leap. Similarly, like, but Dak is like decent floor, decent ceiling, and that's where we are. And I also think, like,
isn't it Andy Dalton though? To Breach's point,
yeah, he's a rich man's Andy Dalton. That's not a good spot to be.
It is.
Well, you acted like that was
worse.
It
could be like Matt Corral.
I think that I mean, you know, Dalton's not a bad comp for being in terms of.
I mean, Dak did fall to like the 5th round for a reason.
Yeah, it off-field stuff. That's why he fell.
Wait, what?
Dak's
cleans a whistle off the field.
No, coming out, he had off-field stuff. That's why he fell.
I don't think that's true, but we can move on.
Yeah, I mean, you're feel free to look it up. I mean, that's why he fell. That's not a mystery. Like we knew that.
Okay.
You
But,
get jumped on spring break when you're at Mississippi State. I remember that.
I didn't think Dak had any off-field stuff.
Yeah, I think he had a DUI. I think he had something come up right around during the draft process that spring.
Is this how you got your okay? Anyway, moving on.
But so yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's easy to point the finger at Dak and obviously Mike McCarthy, because I like to certainly call it Mike McCarthy time and time again. But is this also a case where this is just week one of the Bills getting outclassed by the Jets? Or is this a case where we have to be concerned? Again, they play in the NFC, so it's not like they're going to be a long line of teams, although, Brinson, as you mentioned, the 49ers are there, the Detroit Lions are there, so there's competition. But I don't know. What do you take away from this once you go back to the locker room and have to figure out how to put the pieces back together?
I think if you're the other thing I was going to mention too that I forgot was that this was like a sneaky Kyle Shanahan revenge game against Dan Quinn, because Kyle Shanahan took all the blame for that Falcons Super Bowl loss, and like he definitely believes that Dan Quinn's defense coughed up enough points to let the Patriots come back, and he just dropped a 40 burger on Dan Quinn's face. But I think if you're the Cowboys, you are very much in pick up the pieces mode. You're 3-2. You're fine. Don't feel like you're going to win the division because the Eagles are off to this great start. You do feel like you're a playoff team because the NFC is just sort of staggered in a way that you feel like you're in a good shape. But there are some surprising teams popping up, whether the Buccaneers or the Rams, and at the same time, you're like, okay, we're a playoff team, but how are we like? I think that you walk away from this game as a member of the Cowboys wondering, are we good enough to compete with the best teams in our conference and actually make it to the Super Bowl, which is the goal we had before the season?
Breachbot says no.
Oh God.
I know. I've turned on I've malfunctioned.
Cowboys.
Turned on the Cowboys. But you know what? If you're the Cowboys, though, you're thinking being the second best team in the NFC East isn't the worst thing. You get the 5 seed again. You play an NFC South team in the first round of the playoffs. You get your playoff win. You lose in the divisional round and call it a year.
That's so like do that now, and then you can take off Thanksgiving, spend it with your family, and get on with your end of.
You're like the guy who like shows up the course. You're like, look, I'm just trying to shoot a 110 and just really keep moving on. And like, you guys tell me how much I owe you for beers. Like, let's go.
So you're done with the Cowboys breach? Am I hearing you correctly?
No, I'm not. Look, if you look at the Cowboys schedule, they can beat, I think, any team that's left on it, except for the AFC teams. I think because they play the Bills, the Dolphins, the Chargers. I think they'll struggle with all those teams. They might win one of those, but I think they can beat the rest of the NFC teams on their schedule. I think they can split with the Eagles. So by no means are they done. They're going to get 11 or 12 wins and make the playoffs. I just don't think they have a shot at getting the Super Bowl. And I picked them to get the Super Bowl. I'm off the Super Bowl bandwagon. I still think they get to the playoffs. No Super Bowl.
Well, by the way, if you told Cowboys fans before this game, you held Christian McCaffrey to 2.7 yards per carry and 27 receiving yards, do you think that they would be like, oh, that's cool, we lost 42-10? I mean, my God.
Well,
God, they'd be thrilled. They'd be like, whoa, did we lose in overtime? Or what the heck happened?
They'd be like, oh, I guess the score is like 13-10 us. It's like, no, you actually scored 10 and they scored 42. Brock Purdy, man, he might be Tom Brady 2.0. Like, I mean, like, and I don't mean that in the sense of like he's gonna be the greatest quarterback ever to play football, just that he has this innate ability to hit the throws he needs to hit. He understands Kyle Shanahan's offense perfectly. Or maybe maybe a better example is like he's a souped up Jimmy G.
No, I think you were closer the first time. I never was on Jimmy G. I think Tom Brady's. The thing I was thinking about, and to come back to your points, Breach, Brock Purdy probably looks more like Dak Prescott if he's playing for Mike McCarthy. I think this is just a perfect marriage of coach and guy who's locked in and super smart.
What if you flip quarterbacks? And Dak is with the Niners. Dak is a all like MVP multiple times.
Yeah, I mean, you would imagine. And Breach sort of touched on it. It feels like Mike McCarthy's not putting Dak in position to have success, and I don't want to blame this all on Mike McCarthy. Dak did throw the 3 interceptions. But I don't know, man. I never got the Mike McCarthy hired. I know he took the year off and spent a lot of time at PFF looking at analytics, and it's a leopard doesn't change his spots, is all I'm saying. And I don't know there's no team on planet Earth that's currently going to go in to Levi Stadium, if it's still called that, go to Santa Clara and beat this 49ers team the way they're currently constituted. And Collinsworth talked about it a bunch, and he said basically everyone plays the same position on offense, like all 5 eligibles can do anything. And that's the problem. Like when you can't cover anyone, when Kyle Juszczyk out of Harvard, which apparently is a pretty good school, is out there running over people, running, Christian McCaffrey routes, and Brandon Ayuk or at least Deebo Samuel's running the ball out of the backfield. You don't have any answers. And dudes are falling left and right, getting hurt on the defensive side of the ball. And if they were fully healthy, I still think this game is probably 3 touchdowns. Like, I don't know how you solve this puzzle.
Is there any chance the 49ers go undefeated?
It was domination.
Is there any chance the 49ers go undefeated?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I'd imagine they'd lose, but show me the team that's playing better than they are right now.
The only question we had about the 49ers coming this season was, can Brock Purdy be a good enough quarterback? And the only reason we asked it was we have a small sample size result of what he'd done, and he suffered a UCL injury. And the issue was, like, that's Tommy John. We don't know what's going to happen with that. We just don't know. Like, there were a lot of interceptable passes last year, and he's still been lucky this year, but he just has this like panache. This, like, he has like the it factor. And if he plays the way he's played for the first 5 weeks of the season over the course of an entire year, he will, 1, be in the MVP discussion, and 2, like, yes, they could run the table, but I don't think they will.
Preach, did the Cowboys make the playoffs?
Yes.
Did they win a playoff game?
If they get that 5 seed and get to play an NFC South team in the wild card round, I like their chances. Doesn't mean they will. But
Cowboys Bucks 7.0, like
yeah,
the 18th time they played in the last 5 years.
I don't know, man. I might take Baker in that game.